Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Soy Verónica García, acá reportando para mis seguidores y también para la página de científicos.pe que está dirigido por mi buen amigo Nahuel Monteblanco. Nahuel, ¿cómo estás? Un saludo para ti. Hoy me encuentro en un lugar especial, el observatorio de Dunsink. Este observatorio fue creado a finales del siglo XVII y se encuentra ubicado en el pueblo del mismo nombre, Dunsink, que está cerca a la ciudad de Dublín, en la República de Irlanda. The Dunsink Observatory is organizing a festival, the SolarFest. They do this activity every year, and they bring together a series of talks from scientists, from amateur astronomers, and they do tours around the observatory and much more. Today I'll be interviewing a few astronomers, and one of them is Terry Mosley. Terry is a well-known persona in the field of astronomy. He's reading a book, Reaching for the Stars, and he also writes articles for astronomical publications, and what is more outstanding, a small planet, a minor planet, was named after him. So if you feel curious about it, so you can Google 16693 Mosley. We're here with Terry Mosley. Terry, how are you?
I'm fine,
Terry,
thanks.
I wanted to ask you, what did you do to get, a small planet named after you? Please tell us the story.
I really don't know, but the person who discovers a minor planet can suggest the name for it. And it was discovered by an astronomer at Armagh Observatory, David Asher. And one of my colleagues who knows that I've been involved in astronomy outreach, basically I suppose since I was in my early 20s when I started giving my first lectures and writing articles and so on, decided that what I had done in terms of communicating astronomy to the public over the years warranted a recognition, and he suggested to David Andrews would he offer one of the asteroids or minor planets that he had discovered for me for naming if the International Astronomical Union accepted it. And David knows me well and I know him well. He's a professional astronomer. I'm nowhere near in his league, but he knows that I do a lot of work like this. So he gladly agreed, and he and the friend who suggested it, John McConnell, put forward a submission. I think it was approved also by the director of Armagh Observatory at the time, Mark Bailey. That was sent to the International Astronomical Union, and they looked at basically what's my CV, and they approved it. So I had that. It came totally out of the blue.
Exactly, it's such an honour to have a planet named after you.
A very minor one.
Well, yeah, but still. So
it's 16693, so it was the 16,993rd asteroid to be discovered, so it's not like the big ones. But it's an honour from your peers, and that is more important than anything.
When I saw that in the program, I said, no, I have to meet this person, he's a very special one.
No. There'll be other people here, I think, who have minor planets doing that.
And also you are a science communicator, which is great. I'd like to attend one of your talks. Well, I'll see you tonight. Great.
It's a very popular talk because they're usually families with younger kids. Mind you, it's the young kids that ask the really interesting questions.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you is about you know, the medal you got from the English monarchy.
Yeah.
So working for astronomy.
Again, for astronomy outreach. It's not a very prestigious one. It's nowhere near as
it is a very prestigious one.
But again, no, you're not told who nominates you for that award.
Okay.
It's the nomination comes from somebody, and it's sent to somebody in the cabinet office in London, and they again review what has been said about you, and they decide to either approve it or not. And it was approved. I have my suspicions that it was the director of our observatory, Mark Bailey, but he will neither confirm nor deny that he nominated me. So I don't know.
Great, such an honour. So Terry, I just want to thank you very much for talking to me, and it was a pleasure, and I will be attending your talk tonight.
I look forward to
very
seeing you.
nice
Okay.
meeting you.
Thank
So
you.
I'll see you soon.
All the best.
Thank you, Terry.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. I'm here now with Michael. Michael is a member of the IFAS, and hello, Michael. I would like to ask you about your experience. You are an amateur astronomer, so tell us your experience about it.
Well, I suppose I would have started off growing up as a kid on a farm down in Kerry, and between studying the likes of maths and physics at school and having a very clear night sky to look at, provided a great opportunity to learn a bit more about the night sky and our place in the solar system.
So do you have your own telescope?
I have my own telescope at home.
And can you describe your telescope? I mean, the first one, the one you had it.
The first one was a small telescope about 115 millimeters in diameter, and it was just when you're starting off, you just want to buy something small, and obviously it can get quite expensive as you go further on.
Exactly.
And it was just helped you get into the hobby, basically, and just get started.
And did your parents encourage you to go through?
Yes, I would have had, I suppose, living at home on the farm, and I would have been out observing at night, etc.
How about, you know, students, kids out there that want to get involved in astronomy? What would you say to them according to your experience?
Well, I suppose there's lots of online resources now, the likes of Facebook, etc. But there's nothing quite like looking at the night sky in person. You can do all the looking at on the screen if you want. But it's going to the likes of a local club. IFAS, which is the Irish Federation of Astronomical Societies, has lots of clubs across the country. It's an umbrella organisation for the clubs, so that they can try and pull their resources together. So the website is irishastronomy.org, and if you look there, you can actually see where all the clubs are located. And they have regular meetings, so any member of the public can pop along and chat to people, and they have observing nights as well, where they can look. The members are more than happy to share their telescopes and to bring new people into the hobby. And so before people go spending money, they can just meet up with their local club and get the experience at first.
I'm here with Brian McGowan. Hi Brian, how are you? Brian is currently the chairperson of the Galway Astronomy Club. He's the founder and resident lecturer of the Renmore History Society, and he's amateur astronomer since the age of 15. So Brian, I wanted to ask you, how did your passion for astronomy began?
Well, I think it began with a general interest in the topic, and then, like most people of my generation, I think I was inspired by Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore was in his heyday at the time, and he was a great communicator of science and a great communicator, I suppose, of his enthusiasm for the subject. So, listened to a few programs, read a few books, and I think, as anybody will tell you, once you've read one or two of Patrick's books, that's it, you're hooked.
Did you just become engaged forever?
Yeah, absolutely. His enthusiasm was infectious.
And tell me, how did you begin? Did you buy a telescope, or did you have binoculars?
No, I went into the local toy shop and I bought a horrendously cheap telescope. And actually, when I look back on it now, I cringe. But I suppose that's an indication of the fact that you don't need horrendously expensive equipment to do it. You know, what you need is a bit of knowledge and a bit of enthusiasm, and even an ordinary pair of binoculars would be great to start off with. And
because women end up buying the wrong thing? Or?
It's very easy to do it, yeah. And I mean, astronomy can be expensive to break into, but it's usually, if you buy wisely, you only need to buy once. And you know, a good quality telescope can be expensive, but if you take your time and research it and find your own level and find your own interest, and then buy the telescope, you'll find that you only ever need to buy one, and you never need to buy another one. So yeah, I think it's what I learned from that was that you can do very enjoyable astronomy, and you can learn a lot with very, very basic equipment, very cheap equipment. And it's through after that learning process, and after you've like I said, you found your own particular interest, then you can go out and you can invest in the more expensive equipment.
Brian, based on the presentation this morning, which was great, I never couldn't actually understand with the relative theories. It was kind of hard for me to get it, but this morning it was just great. I couldn't get every single detail. So what I wanted to ask you is, you are a good science communicator, so can you please give us some tips? Me and Hannah, we're science communicator, we're trying to get that level.
Yeah, I think, well, as I said this morning, my watchword is always quotation from Einstein, that when you're explaining a complicated concept, you should make it as simple as possible, but no simpler. So I think the key to it is, from my perspective, is to strip away a lot of the unnecessary complications and try to identify, well, what are the core things that people need to take away from this. And I think you need to have uppermost in your mind what you're trying to achieve. And I wasn't trying to send anybody away today with a foundation course in physics. You know, that's not possible in 45 minutes. So you're thinking, okay, well, what do you want to try to achieve? And if you're clear about that, if you're clear about what you want to try and achieve, which in my case was to give people a basic grasp of the building blocks of the theory, then I think you can focus in on what information do people need. And you can strip away then the extra pieces of information which are not strictly necessary. Now, if you had professional physicists listening to the talk this morning, they'd be cringing. Because, yes, you know,
they would say it's too simple.
It's too simple, you're taking shortcuts, and that's not quite as simple as you're portraying it there. Small things, like I said, the speed of light is constant.
Exactly.
The speed of light in a vacuum is constant. You know, it varies depending on the medium. It slows down as it passes through air or water. But for the purposes of this morning's talk, people don't need to know that. The speed of light is constant, is enough for people to grasp the principles that we're trying to get to. So I think it's a case of being clear about what it is you're trying to achieve, stripping away the unnecessary complications, making it simple enough so that people can grasp the essentials, but not so simple that you're missing some of the important elements. So if you do it right, I hope, fingers crossed, I did this morning, people come away with a clear idea of what the basic building blocks are, but still, I think, you know, some sort of understanding of the nuances.
I just wanted to ask as well, if people want to read more about you, and do you have a website?
We do, yeah, called astronomyclub.ie, and we also have a Facebook page. So if they want to, and if they go onto the Facebook page, what we do is every Friday we have a nice dark sky site in Galway, and that's open to the public. We do public viewing sessions every Friday, and there'll be different people there with different types of scopes, and we're always encouraging people to come along. So if people kind of keep an eye on our Facebook page, and we post updates there when we're holding public sessions or when we're holding talks or whatever. But galwayastronomyclub.ie for the website, and then just do a search for Galway Astronomy Club on Facebook.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much for
Thank you
today, so I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
So we study solar-like stars mainly because it helps us understand our own sun. So by looking at like these other stars that are like the sun, we can try and infer what the sun was like in the past, or what it will be like in the future. Because just looking at the sun as it is now is good for now, but if you're trying to figure out where the sun came from, how it evolved, and how it will
where
evolve.
it's going as well, so that will give you some hints on it.
Yeah, when we look at stars that are very similar to the sun but like different ages. So that was what we were talking about earlier.
Okay, good. Your topic was really actually good and quite understandable, and I heard that was your first talk in public with the lay people. So what advice would you give to others, maybe other scientists that maybe are not sharing their work but just stay in the lab, not maybe interacting with the public?
I think it's very important to make sure you let people know what you're working on. It is very easy to just kind of coast by without letting people know and just do your own work. And that's fine for science, but people kind of need to know, or else you might become unknown.
Exactly, because you know when of course the scientists publish their papers, but then it's quite difficult if you are not expert in the area. Even to other scientists in different fields, it will be kind of difficult to understand.
Yeah, because you only publish in very specific, journals, and if you work in a slightly different area, you might follow those journals or those papers, and then you just wouldn't know what that person's working on. So it is important to give some sort of outreach to people, that people know what you're doing.
Exactly. And in terms of you studying astrophysics, so why did you study?
So that was just mainly because I was okay at maths in school. So I liked maths, and then ended up liking physics because I found it interesting, all these images you see from Hubble and these other telescopes, and they're really striking, those images, and it inspires you to get involved in astrophysics.
I'm here with Sophie. Sophie, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
Sophie completed a PhD at Trinity College in solar physics, and she worked as the research scientist at the Met Office. And currently she's actually a researcher fellow at TCD again, and she's investigated the solar source of eruptive events in order to get a better prediction of them. So can you break down, your study in Civil War, so land population?
Yeah, so space weather, it's basically the same concept as weather, but it's in space. So you get changing conditions in your Earth's upper atmosphere and where you kind of have spacecraft orbiting. And it's basically the source of these space weather changes are the sun. So you can have your day-to-day variations, which cause things like the aurora, which everybody loves. But you can also have more extreme events called solar eruptions. And when they hit Earth, you can impact things like spacecraft and communication disruption and power grid blackouts. You can get loads of different disruptions to technology due to these space weather events that not lots of actually people realise. And so we try to research the source of these in order to better predict the impacts it might have here on Earth.
Well, Sophie, can you tell us what is the difference between the space weather and the terrestrial weather?
So they're actually quite similar, but they're kind of in different locations with different things. So your normal weather conditions on Earth, your clouds, or in your low Earth's atmosphere, you have planes flying, and you'll have your rain and cloudy conditions. But up, as far out as your low Earth orbit, where you have your spacecraft in the vacuum of space, you also have changing conditions, but it's not your atmospheric conditions on Earth, it's the changing conditions from the sun. So the sun will spurt out particles and radiation, and they'll vary with time, and those impacts on our upper kind of outer nearer space is basically what happened in space weather.
Actually, the space weather affect the terrestrial weather, right?
Yeah, so you kind of
direct connections.
Yes and no. Yeah, you'll have space weather kind of impacting spacecraft all the way down to the ground, but in slightly different ways. The weather might stay, they'll kind of occur communication disruption and power grid blackouts and those sort of things. So they'll have direct impacts all the way to the ground, but not necessarily interfering with things like clouds and the rain and that kind of thing.
It's actually quite interesting. So, would you have a website where maybe people interested?
Yeah, so if you're interested in my research, it's drsophiemurray.com. You'll find out all about me.
Okay.
And my research group is Trinity College Dublin. It's tcd.ie/physics/astrophysics. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Sophie Ann Murray as well.
Good. So, I wanted to ask you, besides your research, how did you start it? With astronomy, how did the idea come to you? When was that?
Yeah, so I've always loved space. I've been a total space nerd, I guess, since I was a kid. And I was really good at maths and physics at school, so I remember going on a family holiday. I remember going on a family holiday when we were in a Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and I saw rockets, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do space science.
How old were you?
Oh, like 5 or 6 or 7 or something. I knew from a really young age that I wanted to do space science. And then when I decided to go to college and I did astrophysics, and I did my final year project, and I learned about this thing called space weather, and I was thinking, oh, this is really cool because it's like physics, but it also has a practical impact, so the research I do will be useful for people on Earth. So from that point onwards, I knew I wanted to study space weather.
And do you have any plans for the future? What do you want to do after, another project or something?
Yeah, I mean, we're working at the moment on kind of space weather forecasting in Ireland. I think it's really important globally to understand the impact of space weather, but also on Irish infrastructure. So we're trying to get better kind of improving forecasting for here in Ireland. So watch this space in the next few years. Hopefully we'll get something
Great.
really good.
And in terms of public outreach, do you do a lot of
we try to. I try to spread the word of space weather as much as possible. So try to go to various different events because it's kind of a topic that people sort of know about, but not maybe the ins and outs.
Yes,
they've heard the aurora, but they don't know what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. So, Sophie, it was very nice talking to you,
Me too.
and congratulations on your presentation.
Thank you
I
very
hope to
much.
see you again soon. Now I have Hannah with me. Hannah is one of the organizers of the SolarFest 2017. Hannah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for being here, Monica.
Oh, no, thank you for this interview. So Hannah, tell me, what are the highlights of the SolarFest 2017?
So we have a lot of really great stuff coming up over the weekend. So we have one talk we're having this evening is by Terry Mosley, and it's going to be, the title is Our Place in the Universe. So it's going to be an astronomy talk, but there might be some elements of philosophy and kind of, where did we come from kind of questions, entering in there. So that's going to be extremely interesting. And then tomorrow we have a talk by Brian. He's the chairman of the Galway Astronomy Society, and he's going to give a talk on, it's basically a layman's guide to Einstein's theory of relativity. So if you always wanted to learn about theoretical physics, but you don't understand the maths, this is a really, really good way of learning. He's going to give a really great kind of basic, everything you need to know.
Exactly. Sometimes it's difficult to understand relativity, when you read the papers, but if somebody just explains you like in simple words, I mean, that is so cool.
It's a very daunting subject, but it's actually, when you get down to it, it's really interesting if the right person explains it, so I'm really looking forward to that. And another really interesting talk we have is by Sophie Murray. So she's going to be talking about the weather in space, which is going to be really interesting. It's a topic I don't know anything about. I'm very excited for it.
Neither do I.
And I mean, there's going to be a family day on Sunday, so there's going to be a lot of kids out here. We're going to be hopefully getting out the telescopes, fingers crossed the weather keeps up, and we can actually see the sun. Always a bit of a problem in Ireland. But so we're gonna have tours of the observatory as well, and we'll go into a bit of the history of Dunsing.
So it seems there's a lot of fun here, right? And it's 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days long. Yeah.
Okay, good. So Hannah, thanks very, very much for
Thank
your
you.
time. So
Perfect. Thank you,
I'll see you